What is up? Welcome into the All-NBA show presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with a $150 bonus bet when you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I am Marc Campbell, filling in for Adam Maris today. I'm joined by Tim Legler, as always, the All-NBA MVP. Tim, what's up? How you doing today?
What's up, man? I'm good. The series got a lot more interesting for different reasons over the last 48 hours. So I'm excited about it. I finally had a close game in the West. I knew we were due for one and finally got one. And I thought it was a very, very entertaining game. So I'm anxious to dive into it.
Yeah, we had some good ones this weekend. We had the New York one, the Karl Anthony Towns, big fourth quarter. And then we had just an absolute classic in Minnesota last night. Let's start there because Thunder come away. They're up now 3-1 in the series, 128-126. And it was one of those games where you felt like whoever came out of this was either going to be a series that could go the distance, or maybe the Thunder just chop the head off right here. And this feels like it doesn't really have that much of a chance to get past 5. That place is going to be rocking in Oklahoma City. But let's start there. What'd you take away from this win, this Game 4 win by the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Well, a few things. I think it starts with the fact that if you really look at the data in this game, it's a miracle that Minnesota was in this game. I mean, how in the world can you explain their two stars doing what they did? And actually, Anthony Edwards' numbers, 16 points. I feel like that's almost like overstating what he did. He was that quiet. 2 shots in the first half. Julius Randle. Yeah. 2 out of the 4 games in this series, he's been a total non-factor offensively, including last night. So your top 2 guys combine for 21 points when they, on an average night in the playoffs, get close to 50. And so how would you possibly be in the game, particularly when coming into last night, it wasn't like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Donte DiVincenzo, and Naz Reid had been lighting it up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Jaden McDaniels had been okay, really below his postseason averages also in this series. So you're like, well, if I told you before the game, oh, and by the way, Minnesota's going to turn the ball over 21 times against OKC, and your top 2 guys are going to give you 21 points total. What is that a recipe for? It sounds like I'm describing.
We're losing by 40.
A 40-point game. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because that's what Oklahoma City does to you. You turn the ball over, even on a night when your top guys play well, you turn the ball over 21 times, you're not in that game. So I think that's the first thing, is just trying to wrap my head. And I watched the entire thing. I was doing the Inside Cast on ESPN2, so I was commentating the whole game. So I was watching it, and I still couldn't quite wrap my head around how the hell are the Timberwolves in this game. And actually, if it wasn't for elite level shot making on the part of OKC in the fourth quarter, when they were 12 for 13 on open shots in the fourth quarter, if they don't do that, if Jalen Williams doesn't close the game the way that he does, they might have lost the game on a night in which all of those things happened that I described. So I think that's first for me. How the hell did they put up 126 points on OKC, turning the ball over that much, and their top 2 guys were non-factors really offensively? Can you figure that out?
No, it was one of those when I was watching it, especially the first half. Now, Edwards came alive a little bit, start the third. Like you could see, like he had a different mindset adjustment, but he just felt pedestrian in the first half. And it was one of those things where it felt like their season is on the line. You want him to be forcing the issue, pressing Game 3, he came out with force. And all I heard last night was force, force, force. And finally you saw a little bit of it in the third quarter. But man, to start the game, you just felt like, God, this is it. Like you win this one, like you set a certain tone. Like inflect yourself on this game, really imprint yourself. And it just felt a little lackluster, a little pedestrian to start with. And it was really one of those things where Oklahoma City came out and hit first. Williams was incredible all night, but especially early on and especially late. He was one of those guys that set the tone for them. And it was, you're right. It was one of those where it's a recipe when you look at the numbers, a recipe for a blowout, and somehow their role guys just kept them in it.
They really did. I mean, and I'll give all those guys credit. You know, we're going to talk about the stars here in a second, but let's first give those guys credit that I mentioned. So I said that none of those guys were like lighting it up. I thought actually DiVincenzo at the end of the game 3 blowout win, he hit a couple of threes that didn't matter at all, but they did matter psychologically for him.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I'm a big believer in that. I was a role player in the league. I know if I was slumping, you know, or going through a tough stretch, like to get a couple to go in, no matter what the circumstances, it just matters. It feels different to you the next game. And I think there was a carryover for him as he goes 7 for 11, 5 for 8, gives you 21 points. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has struggled most of the playoffs with his shooting. And look, he's primarily out there to be a great defender. And if he can give you double figures on a given night, it's just gravy. But he comes and gives you 23 points. Jaden McDaniels, as I said, had been very, very good. He was very good in the Lakers series. Not quite as good in the last round. Comes out, gives you 9 for 15, 22 points. Now, look, you could say, well, some of this reason that these guys shot these percentages was the extent to which Oklahoma City was just so loaded for Ant and Randle, but mostly Anthony Edwards. And I guess there's some truth in that. But here's the deal. And I heard Anthony Edwards discuss this after the game, and he basically wouldn't accept at all the premise that he wasn't aggressive enough. He wouldn't accept that. He just kept going. He was not taking that. No, man, I took what was there. I played the game the right way. I made the plays that had to be made. Look, they do a great job of loading up on the driving lanes, getting in the gaps. There's not a lot there. They're a good defensive team. And like that theme, 2 or 3 follow-up questions, he wasn't having it. And all I'll tell you is this. I've got a researcher for ESPN who was with me on the Inside Cast. He was doing a great job giving me these numbers. So I texted him today and I said, I know this is a weird one. It's an obscure request, but if you can get this for me, I knew he wouldn't have it by the time I did this show, but I'm hoping by tonight or certainly tomorrow when a game 5 happens. Can you tell me how many times or the last time a guy that was second team all league or better took 2 shots in the first half of a playoff game? I want to know, because Anthony Edwards can say all he wants about their defense. And look, don't get me wrong. We'll get into their defense in a second, but he's right. But I'm talking about a level of like anemia almost offensively that you just do not see out of players of his caliber that are one of the top scorers in the league, one of the best athletes in the league. I know what Oklahoma City brings to the table, but you've got speed and you've got handle and you've got deep shooting ability, crazy bounce at the rim. 2 shots in the first half of a playoff game. Now, luckily his supporting cast kept them in the game, but they were waiting for like him to go on a run at some point, like, and take control, like get us over the hump here. Cause every time they cut it to 2, OKC would make 2-3 shots. Like, so he had a better second half, I guess. Certainly not by his standards, a great half. But so I disagree with his notion that I'm giving all praise and glory to Oklahoma City's defense, man. I get how good they are, but come on, 2 shots. You're the one athlete on the floor capable of getting off a shot anytime you want to. Now, it might not be a great shot, but at some point, a guy's going to get irritated if you're late first quarter and you've got 1 shot. You're going to get some shots up in the second quarter. And he just never did. So I want to get your thoughts on that. First of all, like his approach, his response after the game, and like what you were seeing out of him.
Yeah, I think there's I appreciate him leaning into, I was taking what they were giving me, because I thought there was a little bit of like, they were really loading up, and Shea did this as well. You would see this heavy nail help and Shea's willing to spray it to Williams, spray it to Chet, things like that. And I think Ant was doing a pretty good job of that, but I agree. Like there's something about when you are that naturally gifted and when you are that talented, and it did feel like you said, it felt like everybody was like, all right, man, like we're holding the line a little bit here, but like you're our guy. Like, can you go ahead and, put some force into this? Can you inject yourself into this game a little bit? And it just feels like one of those things when that guy gets it going, everybody else feels good. Like you just, when you've played and you're not the best player on a team, but you've got a dude with you, when that dude gets it going, everybody's like, all right, cool, we're here. Like we got this. And it just felt like if he had one of those moments, one of those spurts in that second quarter, like you were talking about, like, hey, I let it come to me a little bit in the first, like they're up 10 now. Like I got to give myself a little bit of force here. I got to put myself into this game and really attack right now. That would have really propelled a little bit of energy forward. And he did it early in the third, but maybe it was like too little too late, but still they were there. They were in it. And he did a wonderful job of, in the second half, spraying it out, finding where driving lanes were, creating open shots. Alexander-Walker made some. DiVincenzo made one. Nas Reed was making some. Like it was a real thing, but I wanted more for him. Can I give you a crazy stat here? Because we were talking about you would think it'd be a blowout. This is from Greg Harvey at Between the Numbers. So on Twitter, teams in the playoffs are 0-190 when they get fewer rebounds, fewer assists, fewer free throw attempts, a lower field goal percentage, a lower 3-point percentage, and a lower free throw percentage until now. They are now 1-190. The Oklahoma City Thunder won with all of those things, and they did it with extra possessions. The turnovers, the offensive rebounds, to me, that was the story. Yes, Williams was incredible. Yes, Shea was incredible. But it just felt like every single time there was a moment where you thought like Minnesota can get over hump, it was Dort fighting over a screen, turnover. Offensive rebound bounces out, kick out to Chet, 3, knocked down. Every single time they were almost there, they just were there. Extra possessions, points off turnovers, offensive rebounds. Was it one of those things where you just felt like Minnesota was never going to get there because of these possessions?
Yeah, the turnovers were the big thing. Offensive rebounds played a factor too. Minnesota actually really hurt them in the first half with offensive rebounding. Both teams actually really got all over the glass. I want to finish up the point on Edwards real quick first. So he's talking about making the right play and finding the right guy. And I'm okay. Now, here's the only problem I have with that theory. He's had 6 games in the postseason with more assists than he had in this game. 6. So it's not like he got 13 assists. Because it was a night when everybody else shot the ball well.
Yeah.
So there's something not adding up, because on a night when those guys are shooting the ball well and they're making threes and they're making jump shots, all that supporting except Randle, and you don't get a lot of assists to Julius Randle anyway because he puts the ball on the floor when he gets it. So Anthony Edwards is not hooking up Julius Randle with dimes. That's not really part of it. He'll get some lobs to Gobert. The rest of it are kickouts for jump shots. And they shot it well outside of him, but he still only had 6 assists. So that tells me he was not actively engaging multiple guys and like finding that next guy. I'm not saying he didn't move the ball, but it wasn't necessarily directly leading to offense. I'm not going to say it's a cop-out. I'm just going to say that he accepted it too easily. That's all I'm going to say about him. He's too good. He's got such a dual threat component to his ability to drive attack, and then also the way he gets into his deep shot off the dribble. Now, is his ankle bothering him? I thought it certainly was a factor earlier, and he didn't admit it. He wouldn't admit to that early in the series when he got hurt. I thought it was a factor. He hasn't really addressed it since. He had a breakaway dunk in this game. And it was a nice dunk. It wasn't breakaway in the playoffs, right? 2-1 situation. You got a chance to tie it. And at that point in the game, they had like a lead. It wasn't like come down and do a Vince Carter windmill like you would expect him to do. It was a nice 2-handed dunk. And then about 3 minutes later or less than that, he had another breakaway and he just sort of gently jumped up and dunked the ball. And I'm not going to say I'm reading everything into that, but those are the only 2 dunks he had in the game. And they're the only 2 dunks he's had in this series. So is there or is that just a testament to how great Oklahoma City is and the lack of paint points they give up? They got beat in the paint points last night. So it's like it's just I'm sorry in game 3. So it's weird. It's like a mystery I'm trying to solve as to how a guy that's got that much swagger and like cocky confidence and all of that and talent. And there's
Mhm.
no question in my mind he's got a killer instinct. I think Anthony Edwards is a winner. I think he's a killer. Now he's not as refined as people want to make him out to be. Like he's got some
Yeah,
work to do.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
some people ascended him to the throne last year because they went to
yeah.
the conference finals. He's got work to do, but he's getting there. He's growing every year as a player, but he's got more stuff to add. But is
Sure.
that all it is? We're just going to give that much credit to OKC's defense?
Can I
That's
ask
why
you
a
this?
guy this good only got 2 shots off in the first half of a game? It's a head scratcher to me, man. I'm sorry.
Can I ask you this? Because I think one of the things is like I lean into this with guys all the time that I work with, especially in the league. Like you just hit singles over and over and over again. You wear death by a thousand cuts. You don't have to hit the home run play. You just hit singles over and over and over again. Is it so hard to just put the inverse on like Caruso and Dort? Is it just a war of attrition where they've just worn him down so much?
Yeah.
Is it one of those things where like yes, we've ascended him to the throne, or not we. People have ascended him to the throne last year, and he does have that in him. Like it's there. And a lot of times when you're looking at guys, especially how I've looked at this, like you see what his ceiling could be, but he's got to get there. He's got to make the necessary steps there. But like, is it truly just like this is a step where he's got to learn? Like when you get 3 rounds in, 4 rounds in, when you get these guys like Dort and Caruso, where they're just coming at you in waves, like you've got to be able to weather this storm. You've got to be able to understand, like, I got to keep chopping. It's never going to be easy.
Listen, no, that's why I was going to now. I think it's a great segue into the next point here. So the one thing that is without question true, but it's weird because I noticed this in the second half last night when he was more aggressive and getting some
Mm-hmm.
shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was this, on one possession, and this I only tracked it for this one possession because I was really curious. I'm sure it happened a bunch of times in the game. Think about this on one possession. They were switching any guard to guard
Mm-hmm.
interaction or wing to wing interaction with him. So in one possession, he started out being guarded by Cason Wallace, who
Mm-hmm.
picked and Anthony Edwards was handling the ball up the floor. He picked him up 3/4 court. He was already wearing on him a little bit by the time he
Mm-hmm.
gets into the scoring area, right? Sets a they call I don't know why they set so many guard to guard screens because they're going to switch it onto another elite defender. But I thought the guard big would have a better chance for him. But they set a lot of guard screens. And so I'm thinking, okay, Casey Wallace just guarded him for the first 6-7 seconds. Here comes a guard screen, switch. Oh, let me hand you off now to Lou Dort. How's that feel? Who I
Good
voted
luck.
for, who I voted for Defensive Player of the Year. Okay. And then Dort guarded him. And he gave it up, tried to get it back. Dort overplayed him, denied him. And then there was another guard screen away from the ball, and he came running up, and he got the ball. And guess who he got handed off to? Alex Caruso. So on one possession, he was guarded by Casey Wallace up the floor, Lou Dort, who was just physically mauling him, not letting him catch the ball, and then Alex Caruso, who is, I mean, he's right up there with the best in the league at not being able to get around with a live dribble. That was
Yeah.
all. That took 20 seconds of his. That was one possession of his energy, mentally, physically wearing you down. Oh, and by the way, if you are lucky enough to somehow get some space downhill, Chet Holmgren is waiting for you on the backboard,
Yeah.
who's one of the best rim protectors and rim deterrents and paint deterrents in the league. So I didn't want it all to be about, hey, I'm just really questioning Anthony Edwards. Where was he? Blah, blah, blah. I understand what he's going against. All I'm saying to you is every star player every night has to go against that defense.
Mm.
And I bet you're not going to find any games this half, if guys got through the half uninjured, of any player that was on the first or second team all league that played against that defense that did not get off close to their normal number of shots in a half.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. However you want to add it up and whatever, how you make this a pie chart, say 20% Anthony Edwards, 30% was Lou Dort, 20% was Casey Wallace, Caruso, Holmgren, I didn't even, get into Shea, who's a very good defender. However you want to slice it up, bottom line, it adds up to this. This was their only chance
Yeah.
to make this a legitimate series. They're not going to escape game 5.
No.
And so you got to get this to 2-2, make it a best of 3. I still don't think they would have won the series. Made it a hell of a lot more interesting, and maybe you get to a 7th game. I don't think that happens now. So knowing the circumstances, that's all I'm saying, Mark. How can you add all that up and get 2 field goal attempts in the first half of a game this important? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I
you need
definitely
more.
want to give credit to Oklahoma City's defense because I just described a nightmare scenario to have to go through that possession after possession, getting handed off like a baton to that level of defender.
Yeah, it's true. And I think one thing, there was a quote at some point late in the year by Oklahoma City and Dagnott specifically, and he talked about playing double big lineups. He talked about playing 5 guards. And last night, Hartenstein only played 15 minutes. And one of the things he said in that quote was, I want to know as much about my team as possible when we get to the end of the road. And he's gone through the season and found all these things. And you talked about once how he talked in an interview before about not playing Wiggins so much some games, and Wiggins didn't play last night. And it just doesn't matter for them. But it felt like they went to these smaller lineups, and Caruso played a heavy amount of minutes for him. And it was really geared towards, we're going to shut Anthony Edwards down. We're going to make sure he doesn't get going, and we're going to focus all of our energy on that. And we'll live with a lot of the stuff on the back end, whether it's rebounding or paint protection or things like that. We're going to do all of our work early when it comes to him and try to take him out of the game. And I thought it was incredible in terms of how they executed that. I think they're one of the best teams in the league at old Bill Belichick, do your job. They do their job. Whatever that is, they trust that everybody else is going to do it, and they work together. I think it all starts from the top with them. But to me, that was really the thing that stood out when it came to the defense on Edwards. But they did other good things on. Yeah, they did great things.
Honestly, I kept saying last night on the broadcast we were doing, because we were excited to have a close game in the 4th quarter. It actually, if you really go back and analyze the last 6-7 minutes of the game, the problem for Minnesota was they couldn't stop them. So that's what's crazy to me. Like on a night when those guys struggled the way they did at the top, everybody chipped in enough. You're in position to win the game. You're still scoring, but they couldn't stop them. Every time they needed a bucket, they got one. It was usually a Shea or Jalen Williams. They had a couple of other buckets splashed in there, but it was mainly those 2 guys. And they just had an answer every time. Jalen Williams was fantastic. You're right. I think his whole night, the tone of it was set in the first 2 minutes of the game. He hit a pull-up mid-range, and then he hit a 3. And a guy like that who, listen, it's not like Jalen Williams every game offensively, because his defense is always there. It's not like every game offensively for the last 2 years in these postseason runs, he's been great, or even his regular season numbers. He has struggled sometimes in the postseason. And so even though, he's an all-league player now, people are still looking at him like, is it enough? Is he enough? Can you count on him to give Shea that supplemental scoring punch? And I think he's answering that, man, more and more, because he had a big game 7 against Denver, huge. And what he did last night, because that's a tight spot, man, 4th quarter, and he was sensational the whole game. So he's answering the bell more. And I just thought he was the difference in them getting a win last night when everything added up that they should have won. Because of what was going on with Minnesota, they don't win unless he is as good as he is in the 4th quarter and throughout. So that to me is like probably the secondary headline from this game, because the first one for me again is, how the hell was this a close game? That's my first headline. And then the second one is Jalen Williams got them this win because of how well he played. It's nuts. I just did some math on this real quick because I want to make sure I got this right. 43, 42. Yeah. So do you know what the point differential is in the series right now?
Oh, man, it's got to be a lot.
What do you think it is?
Let me take a guess. All right, 4 games, 63.
It's 1. Because Minnesota won their game by 42 points.
It's like the inverse of the Denver series, right?
They've been outscored in the other 3 by 43 points.
Yeah.
And they won
Oh,
theirs by 42. So the plus minus in this series is a -1 for Minnesota because of that
oh man.
lopsided game 3. It's the weirdest thing you'll ever see. But look, man, it's Anthony Edwards now, and I don't think they're going to win this series. I don't. They're not winning 3 in a row. I personally think it's going to end in Game 5. Oklahoma City gets at home. Their killer instinct is going to be through the roof to get that over with. Because if you don't, and that's why last night I thought they had great killer instinct. Because you think about it, if they lose the game, they know for a fact they've got to come back to Minnesota,
Yeah.
right? And you might be looking at a 7-game series. And then anything can happen in a 7th game. Foul trouble, a rolled ankle, guy has an off night. Like there's too many factors, man. A bad call, like there's all kinds of stuff that factors in a game 7, man. So they wanted to take that off the table, that they potentially are guaranteed 6, and that's what they did last night. So I think it ends in 5, and now Anthony Edwards will have, if that happens, 2 years in a row that the Minnesota Timberwolves will have lost in 5 games in the conference finals. And so you say there's a progression here. I think it's, Minnesota's got to look, do they have enough? Not just Anthony Edwards, because now the next guy I want to talk about real quick is what the hell is going on with Julius Randle, who I gave praise to coming out of the Warriors series as saying this is the best stretch of basketball I've ever seen Julius Randle play. And he's had 2 games in this series now where he had a total of 11 points.
Yeah.
What did you see? What did you see out of, and he got benched for the entire 4th quarter of game 2 loss. And he missed most of the 4th quarter last night in a close game. What does that say to you about overall Chris Finch's belief and trust and just the reciprocation there, man? Like for the year you've had and how good you've been, it seems like he was pretty quick in this series so far to say, I don't think so. Not your night.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting to see how the Julius Randle Naz Reid dynamic plays out, because at some point you think like Naz Reid is like, I'm a starter. I'm a starter. I can play. I want to play starter minutes and I want to start and I want starter money. And you just have to think about is this all kind of just like a stopgap until you think all right, Naz Reid is that guy. We're going with him. And there are things that Julius does in terms of the physicality that you just can't replace. And when he has it going and everything's jolly and good and buckets are going down and a few threes go, he can really give you that type of feel where he's playing together, the ball's popping. But there are times where it just gets to be the back down Julius Randle game and it's 10 dribbles with his back to the basket. And Dort and Caruso aren't going to be punked. They're not going to be bullied in those scenarios. They're going to meet force with force. And I think those are the moments where you think man, can we get off it? Can we get to something else? Could we go into a grenade action here? Can we get to something where the machine gets moving a little bit and you don't have 10 eyes focused on you? Because I think that's where the Julius Randle experience kind of stalls out. When you get 10 eyes on Julius for multiple dribbles, you're not really moving the machine. You're not getting things where everybody's involved. And to me, I think that's the thing that kind of holds him back, not being able to get out of those moments quicker.
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that, and it's he's definitely I was not a big Julius Randle fan.
He's an acquired taste.
His whole career, just because I'm not a fan of guys that have to have X amount of dribbles to score. And that was kind of him in New York, and he wasn't a great mid-range or deep shooter, and so teams forced him to take shots. It wasn't a strong suit, and he didn't play well in the postseason a couple different times for the Knicks. So I wasn't a big fan, but he grew on me over the course of this year. And then I interviewed him during the Golden State series, and I had never talked to him before, never met him. And I was kind of impressed with, he's soft-spoken, he's intelligent, he had a lot of good things to say, and he was in a great rhythm at that point.
Yeah.
And this has been a tough series for him, and their defense, again, is tailor-made for guys like him. I mean, he was great in game 1, though. Give him credit, because Anthony Edwards was just mediocre in that game. Julius Randle was great in that game. He came out ready to play at a 20-point first half. He ended up with 28 points. Anthony Edwards was kind of mediocre. Anthony Edwards much better games 2 and 3. Randle, late flourish in game 3, the blowout game, because otherwise he was sitting on 10 quarters of very little production. And then he had a second half. He gets to 24 points, and you forget about that. Okay, well, he got 24 points. And then he comes right back and gives you 5. And his game is just so tailor-made for what OKC wants to guard,
Yeah.
and how they're going to make you just work for everything. And it's just nothing's quick and decisive, and that's what it takes against them. And ball movement is the way you beat the defense like that, right? So he goes against that. But I also think sometimes I go, well, we praised Minnesota for like this team with Gobert, and like that's their defense. Ultimately, that's going to get them over the hump, and that's going to make them a contender. Okay, well, they got to the conference finals 2 years in a row with Rudy Gobert. Is that enough? Like in this series, it almost seems like, man, I need as much offense on the damn floor as I can get.
Yeah.
And Naz Reid was struggling, but in large part, maybe because the touches were a little bit infrequent, the shots. I don't know, man. Maybe you would have been better off going with Naz Reid out there next to Julius Randle for the majority of the minutes. Because your offense in this series, I think, is the biggest challenge. Even though they had a hard time guarding OKC last night, I think in general, so how are we going to get to 115, 118, 120?
Yeah.
That's what it's probably going to take. How are we supposed to do that against this team? So I think they've got some stuff to figure out, assuming that this ends in 5. They're going to go into the summer. That's 2 years in a row, 5 games out in the conference finals. So it's like, hype, man. Here we come. Swagger. Look at us. And then they go home in 5. And it's like, oh, man. They're scratching their head like, I guess we're not as close as we thought. So it's going to be more tinkering with their roster, whenever this ends. I hate to dismiss a team before the series is over. I have my opinion.
You just did.
I think, I know. But I think Oklahoma City's going to handle their business, man. That's all. It's tomorrow night. I think they're going to handle things.
Let me ask you this, because we were talking about this, and it's in the NBA Twitter ether right now in terms of, and this is not foul grifting, because that is controlling the NBA Twitter ether, but how games end, the fouling up 3. Where do you stand on this? Because this was really, it gets under people's skin. And we were talking about this, like the players and coaches' job is to win the game, not to be entertaining. But the NBA's job is to make sure that this is an entertaining product that people really like to see. So the fouling up 3 got under so many people's skin last night. Oh, it ruined such a great game. I wanted to see how it ended, the shot. Where do you stand on that? Do you think you should be able to foul up 3? Is there a rule that needs to be put in place? Where are you at?
So I'm going to come from both perspectives and give you my final determination. So let's go back to when I played. I was asked to do that a few times.
Foul up 3.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
Personally asked. You're going to take a foul on this guy. And I'll never forget John Stockton, one of the smartest guys who ever lived. And at that point, I had played in Utah, so he was a former teammate, and I knew him. So I'm guarding him out of a timeout in this exact situation, up 3 at home in Washington against the Jazz. He gets the ball. He knows what we're going to do. And exactly at the time, I go to reach in to grab him. He lunges himself into me, throws it up, and gets 3. Now, it was way easier to do it in that era because they didn't have all these gather rules, right? Because think about how many times now you think it's going to be an and one and it's not. Or it's going to be free throws and it's not. Because they're saying that the ball wasn't quick. Back then, it was much more lenient with that stuff in terms of was it a shot attempt or not. So, and he timed it up and he did it. And I don't think he made all 3 free throws. I think he ended up missing one. And I got bailed out. But ever since,
but you were terrified on everyone.
As soon as so gun shy about it, man. So now let's go to when I didn't coach in the NBA, but I was coaching a pretty high level AAU team, and we were in that situation, and I never did it. I never did it. Let's get a stop, man. We were a great half court man defensive team. Really, really big on that. We executed. I'm like, nah, man, I'm just going to make a 3 with a hand up, man. I'll live with it. Because of what happened to me as a player. Because I would be I was scared that these high school kids were going to screw this up. And now we're going to foul and we're going to basically self-inflict this and give them a win. And I'm not going to do it. Now, having said all of that, I get why teams do it, and there's different philosophies out there. Here's what I will say, and where I get where the fans are coming from. It's incredibly anticlimactic to end a game like that. Yeah. You want drama. Make a shot or miss a shot. Give me some drama, man. Hand up. It takes that off the table, and Oklahoma City executed it 3 times last night. 3 times. They executed perfectly, actually, by the way, because in all 3 cases, the guy that caught the ball was running with his back to the basket he was trying to score at. It was an easy situation for them because it's the gray area when the guy's coming off like a curl at the top
Yeah,
and his
yeah.
momentum's going toward the rim and you're nervous, will this guy time it perfectly? They didn't have to worry about that because in all three situations, they forced the ball to be caught running away from the basket. So that's an easy one. Foul him right away. So they executed it and they pulled it off. I get why fans hate it. I hated it watching it last night. Here's the problem. You put yourself in a position to win that game by playing for 47 minutes and 50 seconds or whatever it was, when this stuff began. And now we're going to do everything we can to make it more difficult for your team to close it out. I don't know that makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, all the players and coaching staff, all they care about is, did we win the game, particularly in the playoffs when it's a race to 4. These things are gold. A win is gold, right? And you notch it, put a little notch on the wall, and you got to get 4 of those. Now we're going to put in a rule that's going to make it much harder for you to win in that situation. I don't know that makes a lot of sense from a competitive standpoint. I totally get it from an entertainment standpoint. And for where I sit now, hell yeah, let me see some shot making at the end of this game, at least attempts, but it goes against kind of what I believe, in terms of just how important this is to these jobs are at stake in some cases, man, to win these games and win these series. And we're going to put a rule in to make it harder when you've put yourself in position to win. I don't know that it makes sense.
But you would also be on the counterpoint. You'd be on the other side of that as well. If you happen to be down, like it's not like the rule would only be, against you. You'd be able to be in a situation where you wouldn't be fouled and you'd be able to get a chance to get a shot up. So to me, it's kind of like, it's really an entertainment thing. Like we have defensive 3 seconds. That doesn't exist anywhere else, like for the sheer entertainment of having people be able to attack the lane. So like I can see that. There was one that I saw on Twitter and I forget who it was that had it, but I thought is one good one. And it was, you're not allowed to foul outside of the 3-point line if the shot clock is turned off. Yeah. So Nate Duncan up here. So smart fouling up 3 should be 1 shot in the ball if you're outside of the 3-point line, up 3 with the shot clock turned off. Turn an amazing game into a free throw contest, robbed us. So I understand where you're coming from. Also, like working with guys and being in there, like I think it's all about winning the games, but I do see that it should be fun and entertaining. What do you think about that? And we'll get your thoughts on this. Do you think that there's a world in which you can implement this rule is if you're up more than 3 with the shot clock turned off, like you got to play it out?
Yeah. So I was going to say that suggestion by that person that we just put up on the screen didn't take any score parameters into it. You have to do that because what if it's a tie game?
Well, they said you're up 3
and you foul inadvertently on the floor. Now you get the ball back too. Yeah.
No,
so
no,
it's got to be,
you have to be up 3. Yeah. Up 3 or more.
Yeah, I didn't see foul. Oh, I didn't. You know what? That's my cursor was over where it said up 3. I didn't see that part of the sentence. Sorry. I just saw the next part. 1 shot in the ball if you foul outside the 3-point line. There we go. Up 3. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I guess it would certainly make the ends of these games more exciting and force you to have to play defense to get a stop.
I don't care either way. Sign me up either way. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. This one doesn't move me.
What's interesting is this, as a lot with a lot of things in this league, this really has changed in the last like 10 years. I feel like it was not nearly the consideration when I played. It just, you thought about getting a stop, make them make a tough shot, hand up, don't foul.
Analytics.
Yeah, the
analytics and skill level.
It's the analytics more than anything. Well, yeah, skill level. It's a good point. More guys on the floor can make that shot, can get that shot, can make that shot at a higher rate. That's true too. And analytics guys just crunching the numbers said this gives us a better chance to win.
Yeah.
Not letting him get that shot off. And so now it feels like it comes up every single time in this situation. The analysts start talking about it on the game you're watching in every case. And that didn't used to be. Now it's almost expected. This is what they're going to do. And, for the most part, it works. I guess I would be okay, depending on what rule they came up with, if it was to force a team to have to guard in that situation. I just think you're going so far out of your way to get like anything you can to give the team trailing a chance to beat you. That's what it feels like. You know what I mean?
I love it. Yes, you need it.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. I don't, listen, it's above my pay grade. I don't have any input on the rule changes. I've got some other ones that were kind of off the wall that the league's never gotten back to me on. Like I've always said, you want to speed a game up in regulation, in the regular season, not postseason. Speed a regular season game up instead of overtime. When the game ends, each guy that's on the floor for your team, much like a PK in soccer, is 5 of them. It's a penalty. It's a free throw shoot off, one at a time. Right? Walking up to the line with nobody else on the line. So you got 9 guys standing at half court, and you take one team at a time, and they walk up to their respective basket. Now, so here, think about the strategy involved, because let's say
Can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, wait. Well, let me finish this real quick, and then ask whatever you want. Let's say you're in a tie game, and you're on defense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you want Mitchell Robinson on the floor. But then if you get the stop, he's going to have to shoot a free throw if the horn goes off, and you're at zeros. You know what I mean?
So like if we get the rebound, we're not calling timeout. We're like, let's go to this free throw shoot off. We got Mitch out there. This is great. We got Mitch and Asar Thompson out there. This is perfect. They're not on the same team, but now they are for the same.
Yeah, man. Think about all the strategy. So here's, why I first thought of this idea? So I run a basketball camp every year in South Jersey, and I have a league within the camp. So every day you get to play 2 games. We keep standings, right? The kids get into it. We have championship Friday. There's championship games, trophies for the champion. They get so into it, man.
Yeah.
And so obviously I don't have time. I'm on a tight schedule. Each session's 4 hours, right? I take a 1 hour break in the middle of the day, and then another session, 4 hours, different ages in the afternoon. I don't have time to be playing out overtime with these games. So I came up with games tied, go to overtime. It's sudden death. Each coach pick your best shooter. Free throw in front of the whole, all the players, parents, everybody. And you got a 9-year-old walking up there like, make this free throw. And if he makes it, the other team sends their shooter up. And if he makes it, okay, now that they're done, now go to a next shooter. Nobody shoots 2. So you go to the next guy.
Okay.
And if the first guy misses and the second kid makes it, it's game over. The wildest celebrations you'll ever see are a group of 10-year-olds when some kid just went up and banked in a free throw to win the game. Right. But it creates this element of like, and look, don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of tears at my camp over the years as well for the kid that missed a free throw. And so, now I'm over there hugging him, but I'm a believer that you keep it all in perspective for these kids. And I think pressure is a good thing to learn how to cope with. And I think if it's healthy and you make them understand this is not the end of this, is just a basketball game. And I'm proud of you for stepping up there, like that kind of thing. So I know people are kind of like sometimes like, oh my God, you got kids leaving there in tears. What's going on? So anyway, that's where I got the idea. Like they should do this in the NBA. Put these dudes at the line, man, with nobody up there, one at a time, best of 5. It's the greatest thing ever. Come on.
All right. If we end in a tie, does the opposing coach then get to select the 6th, the 7th, the 8th shooter, or is it the same team? Like, can we get to the point where like Chris Finch is selecting who he wants to shoot the 6th? Well, is that too diabolical?
I actually thought this through. So there's two ways of thinking of it. Do you really want, like, that's how it ends? We go, you get some player that hasn't played in a month sitting there, what I mean? Is that how, or do we re-rack it? Re-rack it, man. Run it back through. I don't know. I don't know. I think
we've lost the thread.
I think actually you'd have less ties in that situation than you think. I think you'd have more high-level free throw shooters and players, all-stars and above, missing free throws in that situation than then when they got to make a big pair late in a playoff game with everybody standing on the lane like normal and knowing there's
Yeah.
timeouts to come and all that stuff. No. This is your one crack at this for you to help your team. There's a whole nother level of pressure, man.
All right, we want Adam. Take us, Adam. Read some ads. Adam. Please save us.
First, the NBA playoffs are underway, so there's no better time to be in the arena experiencing that playoff intensity in person. If you're trying to catch your team live this postseason, let's tell you about our friends at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the best place to get your tickets for any live event. They have the best selection of games and seats, and every purchase is backed by their 100% buyer guarantee. Plus, Vivid Seats is the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. So download the Vivid Seats app and start earning rewards towards free tickets. New Vivid Seats users who use promo code ALLNBA30 will receive $30 off their first purchase of $300 or more. Once again, click the link in the show notes. Go to vividseats.com or download the Vivid Seats app and use promo code ALLNBA30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. I don't know if you guys saw this. $300, that's like 4 good tickets to the Thunder game or maybe half a ticket to the Knicks game. That's what you get for $300 depending on where you are. When it comes to playoff basketball, being there is all that matters, so experience it live with Vivid Seats. Also want to tell you guys about Lucy Nicotine. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free, available in pouches, gum, and our favorite, the Breakers. Breakers are pouches, but with a capsule of liquid flavor inside that helps saturate the pouch. Breakers are available in 4 milligram or 8 milligram options. Our favorite flavors are mint, berry, citrus, and espresso. Pouches go all the way up to 12 milligrams. And if you're not a pouch guy or gal, Lucy Gum is available in 2 milligram, 4 milligram, or 6 milligram options. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door so there's no more weekly gas station trips. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/allnba and use that code ALLNBA to get 20% off of your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you ever change your mind. That's lucy.co and use ALLNBA to get 20% off and always free shipping. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Whew, thank God Adam saved us. We were off the rails there. We were ready to put a PK shootout, walk-ups from the free throw line. Man, thank God Adam was there for us. All right, we're switching to the Eastern Conference, going to Indianapolis. Game 4 coming up tonight. Pacers favored by 2.5, but in Game 3, Karl-Anthony Towns saved New York's season. There's no other way around it. Yes, there have been big moments before, but this was one of those moments where you thought, like, man, like this guy really put his stamp on the game. 20 out of his 24 in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Pacers by 16. And if the Pacers take this one, I mean, it's dead to rights. The series is over, whether it's in 4, whether 5, 6, it doesn't matter. It's over if they're up 3-0. So a moment for Cat. What'd you take away from this game? And is the series over?
Oh, man. So this is one of those series because the Knicks won that game. Now I really can honestly say you don't know on a given night like how this is about to go. Even if Indiana wins Game 4, I think they will. But I don't know they're going to lose both of these games at home. Particularly how well they played in the first half to get that lead. Like they know they can operate offensively against this team. So I think they're going to win the game, but that doesn't, to me, guarantee like it's over then. There's no way the Knicks come back from 3-1. I mean, 2 of the last 3 would be in New York. So you would have to win, obviously, Game 6 in that situation on the road. You're going to rule that completely out with Jalen Brunson on the team? Like, I don't know. So this one is really tough to call. We've had 3 absolute nail biters full of drama, all kinds of stuff going on in the fourth quarter and overtime of these games. Karl-Anthony Towns saved the day for them. I can't, much like what I just said about Minnesota, how were they in the game? Of course, they didn't win it. The Knicks, you think how they win this game? Like you're talking about down 20, really bad foul trouble they're dealing with. Like Brunson, Towns, dealing with all kinds of foul trouble on the road down 20. Like what? And then Karl-Anthony Towns, well, actually, I'll go back. There's something happened before that. It set the tone. I thought Deuce McBride's little mini run at the end of the third quarter was critical to get them within striking distance. Yeah. Didn't totally get away from them. And then Karl-Anthony Towns went nuts. And then at the end of the game, Brunson reinserted himself into the equation, made a really tough runner, important free throws. So he was great at the very end of the game, but it was really about Towns in the fourth quarter, man, getting loose, Pacers fouling too much. Pacers way too much isolation and over dribbling offensively, not nearly as much ball movement, player movement that got them the lead and that operated, the way they did in the 2 games in New York. They looked different in the second half, and particularly the fourth quarter of this game. At the same exact time that Karl-Anthony Towns was making threes and getting to the line and driving the ball, it all sort of came together in this perfect storm that meant Indiana gagged that lead up. And now we've got a series. Now there's going to be an awful lot of pressure and drama in the building tonight. And I'm glad, because it's just better as an analyst to watch and to break down.
It's good for basketball. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. There's something about, you said it, and we talked about this the last time I was here. We were talking about Pacers Cavs, and we were talking about, there's these arbitrary numbers where you're like, all right, we got to stay within touch. We can get it under 10 here. We can get it under 20 here. We can keep it here. And the Deuce McBride run is one of those that keeps it there. And then you go into that quarter, you're like, all right, we're at 10. Like, everything's reset. Like, it's only 10 points. It's 12 minutes. Like, this is all good. Like, it's no problem. And so I think like that was huge. And you talked about the pace. When the Pacers, because we're both Pacers, we've been on the Pacers the whole time. They're a really, really good team, and they fit for playoff basketball. They can take an advantage and press it. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can make the next play, swing. They have intelligent players. But when they slow down, they don't have their superpower, because it's one of those things where their speed is the thing that just amplifies all these advantages in their shooting. And when they slow the pace down, they become kind of human. They become normal. And I think you're right. Like, if they get that speed going, especially in that building on offense, not just transition, but how the ball moves in the half court, that separates them as a unit.
No doubt about it. And so their MO is early push. I don't think they've gotten killed by the Pacers the way the Pacers just completely make themselves unguardable in the regular season, when you've got like one, you got one film session to prepare for the Pacers, or one walkthrough at shoot around. You were in Houston last night, and now you're home, and here come the Pacers, and you're like, okay, let's talk about some of the things they like to do. Good luck, because it's just different. It's a different way of attacking. Now you got them in a playoff series, game by game. You should be adjusting to that, and I don't think that's killed the Knicks, but I think the Pacers, in the 2 games in New York, the bottom line was this: they played with incredible poise down the stretch of those 2 games. They executed, got the shots they wanted, got the switches they wanted, beat that guy off the dribble, and then kicked out and moved it. And then some of those shots are really good looks they had to have, particularly game 2, but they made the shots. They weathered the pressure. They made the shots, and they just look like a higher level executing team than the Knicks did in those situations. So the pace is very important for them, man. And they had it in the first half. They were rolling. Halliburton had the bucket to put him up 20, and he was talking to the crowd, and it looked like, man, oh man, like this, we're headed for a sweep. This is going to be a sweep. That's what it looked like. And damn, that's why you can't figure out these NBA playoffs, man. Here come the Knicks, and they end up winning the game. Now, listen, there's a big thing here now for game 4. Number one, Aaron Nesmith, he's a game time decision. He is so important to them with physically his ability to guard Brunson, get over picks, just wear him out a little bit more. And then, of course, his shot making, obviously, big part of this. So that's really big. And then the other thing, I got a question for you. What the hell is going on with Bennedict Mathurin? Where is he? The guy has, listen, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. The first 3 games of the Cleveland series, he had 11, 19, and 23 points. Okay. So that's 53. It's 17.7 points a game in the first 3 games of the Cleveland series. And in the last 5 games, he has 15 total points. He has 11 points in this series. I love Bennedict Mathurin. What is going on with Bennedict Mathurin, and what the hell can they figure out in the last 48 hours to get this guy going? Because I think if Nesmith plays, but he's not quite as good, maybe doesn't make shots, whatever, who knows what he's feeling, Mathurin can still be the tipping point for the Pacers. You're talking about a dude that on any given night can get you 15 to 20 points. He looks like he's lost confidence. He looks unsure of himself. They look unsure of him. And it was all in the last 10 days.
Yeah.
What the hell has happened to this guy? So he, to me, is a big mystery heading into game 4. I think it's in there, but is it too much to ask now based on the way he's been playing for the last, 5 games in the playoffs that he's going to turn it around tonight?
I don't know. It's interesting, and it will be interesting. Nesmith is such a swing for them. He's like Velcro when he's guarding Brunson. Like he's just in his pocket the whole time. It's incredible, and he has a certain physicality to him. And it feels like almost when it comes to Mathurin, it feels like they just like Ben Shepherd a little bit more to run around after Brunson, and they like having Halliburton and an extra guard like Nembhard out there with him. And is it just that he just doesn't fit with how this series is going and the matchups and things like that? Or do you think it's more of like him as an actual player?
No, man. I know I don't, because I watched him all year and I look at the way he's played over the course of his first 3 years. And this year he played 72 games. He started 49 games for them and he averaged 16 points a game, 46% from the field, which is really respectable for a wing, a 2-guard, basically. 34 from the 3. Like that number's got to come up a little bit over time. Not a super high volume guy though. Like he gets to the line, he rebounds the ball well. He's a physical specimen. He attacks, fits well in their system because the ball is always moving. And so his cutting and weak side slashing is always like on the table because of the way they move it and the way they get defenses to have to react and look at the ball. Now here he comes with a baseline slash or a weak side cut. And it's just all gone away.
I know.
It's the craziest thing.
It'll be big tonight, especially without Nesmith. We'll see how it goes. We gotta cut it there, James. Any super chats today? Super chat. All right. I swear I wanted to ask this at playoff inception, but what's the Pacers title scenario? So far, it's as predicted, except the Celtics lost. Next.
I don't know what that means. The Pacers title scenario. Like what?
Is there a path where they win a title? Like what is the path where they win a title? And right now, like getting past Cleveland, not seeing Boston, like they like this, like what's the next thing? Is it, can they beat Oklahoma City? Is it that they just shoot it really well and their offense is the scariest thing that, Oklahoma City closes out to everything, but hey, look, we can shoot it really well. Like, is there a path where they win the title?
Going into the playoffs, I genuinely believed the 3 best levels of competition for OKC down the road were all going to be teams from the East. And it was a healthy Boston or Cleveland who played OKC really well in the regular season. They played them twice within a week.
Yeah.
And the first time they played was one of the best games I watched all year. They traded baskets the whole time. It was amazingly entertaining. And then Indiana was the next team on my list because they don't require a lot of dribbling to beat you. Typically, they did too much of that in the second half of game 3 in this series. But, they know that. They admitted that. It'll be better tonight. You can't do that against OKC. Ball has to travel through the air. You've got to get into your sets early. You can't play against a set half-court defense all night against them. So Indiana, in a lot of ways, is like, yeah, man, that's a prototype for like this offense at least will give you a chance. End of the day, though, Oklahoma City's the best team in the NBA. So maybe there is no path for anybody this year outside of Oklahoma City because they're that good.
Yeah. If they do win the title, if Oklahoma City does win the title, we'll look at game 4 of Denver and game 4 of Minnesota, where they overcame this, like, we're a young team, that moniker of like, we're young. We don't like those 2 wins on the road. Like those would be the times where we'll say, all right, like these dudes are for real and they're not a young team. Like they are just the team. So
I know listen, now the Knicks are back in this series, but I know this, the Knicks, and certainly the Knicks fans and that fan base, they thought when they got past Boston and they were probably going to win that series anyway, because they were up, 2-1. They stole those 2 games in Boston. They're up 2-1 when Tatum got hurt. They were going to win that game. So they're going to be up 3-1, whether Tatum's hurt or not. Now, could Boston have come back in that series? Possible. We'll never know. The bottom line is Boston's gone. And somebody else took care of the Cavs. Here you go, Knicks. And then here come the Pacers and Aaron Nesmith in the last 250 of game 1. And it's like this state of shock ever since until the fourth quarter of game 3. And now they've got that belief again. And that's why tonight might be, honestly, man, besides game 7, I guess, OKC Denver, this might be the defining moment of the postseason. It's very possible whoever wins tonight wins this series.
Absolutely.
And gets to the finals, right? Do you agree with that?
It's possible. Absolutely. You go back to New York 2-2 after stealing these two in Indiana, and you're like, all right, look, like
because
two of
two
them
out
are
of
going
the
to be
final
here.
three
Yeah.
will be at home. 2 out of the final
Yeah.
3 at home if you can pull that off. And
They're-
are the Pacers going to win again in Madison Square Garden? I don't know. After winning 2, so it might be this one, and so that sets the stage for one of these two teams. And Knicks, who haven't won a title since the 70s, right? And the Indiana Pacers, who've never been to the finals. This is what
they went once. They went
once.
once.
Potentially tonight in Indianapolis. That might be what's at stake tonight.
Yeah, they went once. Reggie played Kobe. All right, last one. We need to get Mark sportscasting with Legs. Also, Legs is the best sportscast around. Can you please ask the folks at ESPN to stop putting giant circles around the players when the game is live? They won't even answer your emails about rules. Can you? Do you have this kind of swing?
Yeah, I just want to real quickly look. That was a certain type of broadcast appealing to certain people, and they're trying it out. So we only did 4 games. We're done with that series. Now we're not doing any more. That we did 4 games. The Insight Cast, all kinds. I was in VR headset on the court. It was kind of, some people liked it, some didn't. The circles around players, the shot bots, which were kind of cool when you could. Yeah, there you go. DC 96. I named my avatar DC 96. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought if you watched it and if you weren't just so annoyed by the graphics because that's not your thing or the VR, did you listen to the analysis of the game? Because there's a hell of a lot of that in there too. When we were just sitting on the sofa, basically doing color analysis on the game. I don't know. It's not for everybody. I get it. A lot of people liked it. The feedback internally has been great. We did good numbers relative to what other altcasts have done in the past. We did much better than anything they've put out there as an altcast before. So I had a lot of fun doing it. It might not be your thing with the different things popping up on the screen. Some people love it. So that's all I can tell you, man.
That's such a beautifully politically correct through line. Like that was incredible, man. I love that. That was so nice. Legs, thanks for having me today. Thanks for letting me hop in.
Mark,
this
you
was
got
good.
It, man.
Yeah,
I'll catch up soon.
Later, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.